I know who I am. I'm not afraid. I know what I stand for. I know the mistakes that I've made. I know exactly how I apologized, how I've mended, and I really trust myself. And that's something I didn't have when she was alive.
Thank you for joining me on Connection is the Medicine. I'm your host, Eden Shante, and today I welcome Elena Brower. She's a master yogi, a Zen practitioner, and about to release a great book called Hold Nothing. This podcast is all about connecting to the truth of who we are, our deeper selves, each other, nature, and spirit. And there's no better person to support us in this art of connection than Elena Brower. Let's dive right into the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, Elena.
Hi, friend. It's been a little too long since I've seen you. Happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much for joining me on Connection is the Medicine podcast. And I really look forward to this opportunity to dropping in and experiencing connection with myself and with you while we're talking about experiences of connection in your life that have enriched you and supported your journey. And so I would like to begin by asking you what connection means to you.
So many things at this time. In this season, connecting with myself is very, very important to me. I'm just about to embark on this sort of book launch in earnest. The book is now in print. We're waiting for it so that I can hold it in my hands. And finding time every single day to just be by myself, and then to be with James, and then very carefully curating exactly with whom I'm spending my time, because those connections are, as you said, a point of nurturance for me. And I have to be really careful. In the past, I haven't been quite as careful. The connections that I'm making now are ones that, as you said, support me. Some of them are challenging to me. I have a almost 19-year-old son who is the love and the light of my life, and also moving through a lot. And connecting with him is very important to me too. And I'm navigating how to do that exactly so that it's not so overwrought, but that he knows that I'm here and I'm interested and I'm listening and I'm present. So those are kind of the considerations when I think about connection right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And also friends like you. Oh my goodness, to be here where we are right now. We're neighbors in Costa Rica, Nosara. We're watching this town burst open, literally before our eyes. We've both been coming here for a number of years, over a decade, and for better or for worse, it's growing. And so each of us are also making concerted efforts to support the community, the local community, while we also enjoy a real influx of people that we love and connections that we treasure here. It's a very important time. I think we're going to look back on this time, Eden, and say, those were the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're beautiful days here.
Mm-hmm.
So nourishing.
God, the birds. I hope our listener can hear the monkey family that is jumping around in the palm trees just nearby, and the birds and the wind, and we might get some rain again. It's a very special place to both of us here.
Yes. Now, there were some choice points, things that have happened in your life that have helped you to connect more deeply. But what came up within me just sitting with you is I wanted to know your perspective on the breath.
Mm.
I wanted to have you speak about how the breath can help us connect, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind. It's very much a part of my day, my morning. Upon waking up, I don't move. I find my breath first. And I really make an effort to keeping my mouth closed, to take the deepest inhalation that I can, and then to at least add 2, 3, 4 beats onto the exhale. So that's my first thing in the morning, what I do. Usually I have hands on my body, so a hand on my belly, hand on my heart, or wherever the hands are needed. That's my first move of the day. It's Reiki hands and a slightly longer exhalation. So I come into the day with my parasympathetic nervous system being called upon.
Beautiful.
And then I end it in the same exact way. And you would think, oh, waking up, don't you want to lengthen the, build the inhalation? Like, yes, sure. If you're not feeling particularly energized on a morning and you're listening and you think, oh, how can I use the breath to energize myself? Lengthen your inhalation, build energy. But for me, I'm always excited to wake up, even when tragedy has found its way into my life. And starting the day with a very enriched and active parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, that feels important to me. And it has changed among a few other things that I've changed, but it's part of the change in my blood work. I'm seeing it in the numbers in terms of my cortisol levels, insulin levels, HbA1c, all of that.
And tuning into the body.
Yeah, just listening. Before I
Listening.
jump out of the bed, to really be listening and to be calling upon that part of my system that calms everything. It's so good for me.
Tell me about listening.
I think the first thing that I want to go to is the very beginning of my parenting, my motherhood journey. For some reason, I wasn't really thinking about this, but that's kind of where I learned how to listen. I didn't know before. I've made millions of mistakes not listening, insinuating myself into situations, interrupting in situations where really listening is all that's called for. And as I said, the kid is now almost 19, but it was only 5 years ago that I learned how to sit zazen, Zen meditation. I'm pretty sure that's where I learned how to listen, because I put myself into the way of a month-long practice period where we're sitting for 5 to 7 hours every day. And then for the week, the final week of that practice period, we're sitting for 8 to 9 hours of the day, facing a wall, mostly, except for the very first and last segments of the sits. And wow, I have to get really comfortable just listening to my own breath and observing my own mind. And the task initially was to stop trying to change what I'm observing or judge or, have disdain for the activity of my brain, which has brought me pretty far in this life. But instead to really listen and see, okay, that is a very sweet and human pattern of thought. And how do I not latch on to that? How do I just let it go by like a cloud in the sky? How do I not grasp it and try and fix it or change it? And that's kind of where, that's where listening has been a part of my schooling, let's say, in earnest, since I turned 50, and now I'm almost 55. And, I think that was a pretty good timeline for me. I wish it would have been sooner, sure. But to learn how to listen at 50 is a pretty good deal, And now I'm putting it to very good use in my work and in my life and in my friendships in particular that mean a lot to me. And that feels appropriate.
Tell me about what it's like to be with discomfort when you're sitting for that long. Because, I mean, most of us don't want to be uncomfortable for 10 seconds.
No.
So, how have you learned through this process of sitting to be with discomfort?
Such a good question. And I would have different answers on any given day. But today, I will answer with the history of my studies, which is the first. I was very much a book Buddhist, reading all the books that I could get my hands on in the lineage of my first teacher, Roshi Joan Halifax, Bernie Glassman, Maizumi Roshi. And then discovering that the teacher with whom I would like to work until I disappear from this planet, this plane, is in the Suzuki Roshi lineage. And so I'm reading all of his books and the books written by the teachers who have been ordained in his lineage. So reading was great because it gave my mind a lot to do for the first 2-3 years. And it wasn't until year 4, I wrote this down in my journal, which I recently revisited. Year 4, I realized that I have this very natural breath. And that can be the focus of my attention. Even after I've read this is the very instruction that most of the teachers offer when sitting Zazen. Just sit. That's the tradition of Dogans. Zenji's Zen is shikantaza. Just sit when you're sitting. That's the whole world right there. It took me ages to realize that I wasn't thinking while I'm sitting. I wasn't solving my schedule while I'm sitting. I'm not meant to organize my life while I'm sitting, and I'm certainly not meant to try and craft certain conversations while I'm sitting or plan my shopping list for the supermarket. I'm meant to just be sitting and listening to my natural breath. I finally found my natural breath in year 4.
How did you know you found it? Like, what
But all of
happened?
a sudden, I was comfortable and relaxed in my seat. It was as though I had discovered some sort of refuge in a place where I'd been fighting, looking at the wall, making shapes with the dots of stucco on the wall and, just keeping my mind occupied
Right.
while the time elapsed. And finally I realized, oh, there's a breath here. It's like the ocean. You have to try not to compare it to things that are pleasant, but there's the breath. There it is. Can I just follow the breath? Can I not, as I said, grip on to the thoughts that are coming through? Can I just follow the breath? And, it doesn't always work that way. Certain days I get to the seat and my mind is in pain. Something is going on in my life that really is painful, or I'm in grief. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling frustration. But now I know where I'm meant to be with my attention, and it's just on the breathing.
Is it similar or different than Vipassana in the sense that if something arises like grief or sadness or shame or guilt or anger, whatever it is, does that become the focus of the meditation? Or in Zazen, are you just working with the breath and whatever arises, you let go and come back to the breath?
In the tradition, the auspices under which you find Suzuki Roshi, Maizumi Roshi, these other lineages. In this tradition, which was founded by a monk by the name of Dogen Zenji, Eihei Dogen, in the 1200s. He lived from 1200 to 1253 or 4, depends on who you ask. In his tradition, it's only, the monkeys are active. It's only about just sitting.
It's what?
It's just sitting.
Just sitting.
It's not about, if I notice grief, I'm going to follow that grief and make the meditation about that. No, it's the opposite, actually. Shikantaza, that Japanese word, just sitting.
Mm.
So you're constantly moving your attention back to the breath, back to this, just this. You're just sitting. And, to elaborate a little bit, the dignity with which you're sitting is very much a part of the process. That dignity is kind of I want to say an offering because that makes it too dramatic. It's very much a part of the practice of instilling within myself and the practice field in which I find myself a sense of dignity through my seat. And that dignity, I have found, begins to wend its way through all of my doings, interactions, work, offerings, everything, because I'm just practicing it in this very simple seat. I can't really explain it more than that. It's not special. It's not some special thing I'm cultivating. It's just the way that one sits, if one chooses. And one might notice that it does find its way into everything one does, this sense of dignity. So that, for me, it's a part of it. In this season of my life, it's a part of it. And lest I sort of go too far, it's a really wonderful understanding that I'm coming to. Whatever I practice in that seat, 1 hour, 2 hours a day, when I'm not in the Zendo, whatever I practice there will find its way into my life. So if I practice dignity, if I practice rancor, if I practice greed, if I practice planning, whatever it is, it will find its way into my life for that short term. And so I'm very conscientious now about what I'm practicing when I'm sitting.
Yeah, what you're bringing into the field.
Yeah.
Tell me about the role of contemplation in this particular practice, because contemplation is often an important part of a lot of spiritual traditions. So how does it come into Zazen?
So Zazen in and of itself really is the practice of just sitting. Soto Zen, the umbrella under which we're sort of speaking here about the tradition that I find myself in, there are certain branches of Soto Zen, even though it's not technically a tradition that uses koan practice, certain branches do use koans. And a koan is a family story, a riddle, an interaction that happens sometimes between teacher and student, or friend and friend, brother and brother, where something is brought up, a question is asked, an answer is offered, and it's not meant to give you a direct line into an understanding. It's meant to just point at something and say, aha, maybe you'll think about this. Maybe you'll think about this particular answer that was given to this question, and maybe it will bring you some insight. There's a great one that I play with often in my mind. Joshu's cup of tea. A monk comes to a monastery. The director and the sort of head of the monastery are walking. This monk comes in, and the director and the head of the monastery, Joshu, asks, "Have you been here before?" And the monk says, "No, I haven't been here." And Joshu says, "Great, have a cup of tea." Cool. Director and the head, Joshu, keep walking. Eventually they come across another monk, and Joshu asks, "Hello, kind sir, have you been here before?" And the monk says, "Yes, I've been here before." And Joshu says, "Have a cup of tea." And they go walk on a little more, Joshu and the director turns to Joshu and says, "Joshu, the one who has been here, the one who hasn't been here, why did you tell them both to have a cup of tea? What's going on?" And Joshu says, "Director?" The director says, "Yes, have a cup of tea." Now that's a pretty great, contemplative tool, let's say, to consider.
Mm.
For me, it tells me stop making things so dastardly complex and complicated and just have a cup of tea, live your life. Do the thing that's in front of you. Stop planning so far ahead. Stop thinking you have to become somebody you're not. Stop trying to get there. You know, that's what it told me when I first read it. There are so many other wonderful koans that I'm not bringing out, but that's a good one. To answer the question about contemplative practice, that has been part of my work, has been to take these koans and to stop figuring out what they mean with my brain and instead to just let them sit and work on me. And this have a cup of tea, it's like, first of all, as you know, we've had tea together many times, and I just love serving tea, love sipping tea, love receiving tea. But to have a cup of tea in this case is really just to like mellow out, dude. Relax, do what's in front of you, follow your nose. Don't worry so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's been my contemplative practice, and I of course do a lot of reading. You and I both are sort of in the same game. We love books, so I read a lot, and I'm always kind of walking with what I'm reading and thinking about it. And you know, for better or for worse, it does come up in my sits, and then I sort of can let it go and remember emptiness. There's no need to fill the space. Just breathe.
I want to transition now. Thank you for taking us on that journey.
Sure.
Where we took each other
Uh-huh.
while we were having a cup of tea.
Delicious, I might add.
I want to know, you had mentioned to me that one of the important areas of connection in your life related to your mom's passing.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could share about how that changed the trajectory of your life and or helped you connect more deeply with your life. Whatever you want to share about that.
I think about the day of her death and the moment of her death often. And I realized that that was this sort of transmission of a sort. And I write about it in the book that we're talking about today. She passed. I had my left cheek on her belly. My sister was up near her face, and my dad was on the other side of her head. And that last breath she took, I felt it. And almost instantly, it was like some kind of, I don't want to say message, it sounds so trite, but something was transmitted. I can't really explain it. She is closer to me than she's ever been. And she's gone. Like, I'm the oldest child. She had 2. And she's gone. And I am the one to sort of carry her love and her fortitude forward. The connection that I had was not, it is with her, because as she passed, I really feel her everywhere. She's all around. We went for a walk just this morning and we saw 2 morpho butterflies, the blue ones. I can only imagine that that's her. They were separate, 2 different times. She's everywhere. But I think the primary connection that I experienced in that moment on that day was with myself. And suddenly I remember feeling like, oh, wow, it's just me now. There's no oversight. There's no other voice. It's just me. Of course, my dad is still alive and he's awesome. My sister is still alive and she's awesome. But there was something shifted that day, and I wish I had more words for it. I write about it a lot in Hold Nothing, but I can't really transmit to you what was given to me that day, which was a reconnection to myself, a belief in myself, a trust in myself that nobody can take away now. And I've had some weird stuff happen since she died. That was almost 8 years ago. And like, I've been met with some pretty significant challenges, and I know who I am. I'm not afraid. I know what I stand for. I know the mistakes that I've made. I know exactly how I apologized, how I've mended, and I really trust myself. And that's something I didn't have when she was alive.
Was she the one who played the overarching, I want to say parental, godlike entity in your life versus your dad, or was it both? Or
She, to be fair, I think she was that for a long time. When I realized that she wasn't a superhero, I was probably like 14 or 15. And there was a big shift in our life together. I started smoking pot, which was not the best. It was pretty early in my life, and I know how disappointed she felt. But when I realized that she wasn't a superhero, she was a fallible human, it took a while for me to get back to, really respecting her and really admiring her. It took time. But we ended up there. We had some good help. I had a lot of therapy, a lot of work that was done. And she met me the summer before she passed. She'd been sick for a long time. Then she was in remission. She'd had several different types of cancer. She was in remission. We met at a friend's house to do some pretty deep, emotional, therapeutic work. We did the work. Took several hours. Basically, I read a beautiful letter that I'd written to her, basically asking for adult-to-adult contact. This is my experience. This is what I can apologize for. And these are the things for which I would love an apology. I would love some acknowledgement. We were overseen. It was a wonderful process. We got there. Within maybe 6 or 8 months, she was gone. But I had no way of knowing that she would die. She ended up having a very sudden heart attack that was a result of all those years of chemo.
yeah.
But there was no indicator. It's just like 48 hours out, which is precisely what she would have wanted. She wouldn't have wanted like hanging around, and she would have said, I wouldn't want to be a burden. I think she did say that often. But that was when we really rebuilt, and I felt a deep, abiding respect that holds to this day and stands.
That time where you met with her and asked for what you needed in a sense, or shared what you needed to share, you left that meeting feeling a sense of resolution.
Oh, it was awesome. Completely. We both did. She still had some like little questions and things, but we worked it all out. And it was great. Nobody in that generation, she was born in 1946, post-war, not one. It's so rare to find a person in that generation who actually is like, yeah, I could have done better by you. Or, yeah, thank you for telling me how painful that was for you. Or, yeah, here's what I would do differently had I had another chance. And, we got part of the way there. And it was pretty great. We wrote a lot of stories. And I think, as they say in Indigenous cultures, I really did feel this like movement of 7 generations prior. I felt something click, clunk, fall into place. Like something changed in that whole matrix. And an honest conversation was had. I feel closer to her and to my grandmother than ever. And I didn't do great by my grandmother either. I wrote about this in the book too. She died, and I was her favorite. If any of my cousins are listening to this, I'm so sorry, but that's what she told me. If she told you that, I'm happy. And I was her favorite, and I did not leave where I was. I was on a holiday with a boyfriend and his family at the time. What? How could I not go to her? She was dying. But at the time, I was so afraid to be around death or in a hospital for that matter. I was still in my 30s, and I just couldn't. Now, of course, having had that experience, I run toward death. I volunteer with the dying.
Yeah.
And it's such an important part of my life at this time. But I didn't do right by my grandmother at all. And because of all of that work that my mother and I did, I feel like we fixed a lot of that. Somehow it got mended.
Yeah. Just working with the line of the lineage.
Yeah.
At a particular point, not necessarily that point, but the point that you needed to work, then flowed through the lineage.
I think apologies, genuine apologies, NVC style apology is always the kind of the best where, for me, where you're saying, it's not just, I'm so sorry that happened. It's, wow, if I could go back and do that again, here's what I would do differently.
Yeah.
And to be able to deliver that, I can't help but think it really does change the generations prior. Just moves all of the constriction and the sort of toughness out and moves into the space that's like big open field of possibility where anything can happen and nobody's to blame. Everybody's just doing their best here forever. Even the worst ones, just doing their best. I'm not excusing the behaviors, all the things that I'm thinking, and I'm sure you're thinking, and I'm sure our listener is thinking. The worst criminals, the worst offenses, even they, given their history, were doing their best. How do we fix it? We come in with our own genuine apology and acknowledgement. How would we do it differently if we could do it over again? We stare people in the face. We write them a letter. We don't send it. We send it. It doesn't matter. You're just putting it into the field. And it changes things. I can feel it in my body.
Being present and having integrity. Being honest.
Totally. I sleep very well now.
I'm really struck by this experience that you had where your mom passes. And it's almost like you came into yourself.
It was pretty weird.
Wonderful. It's almost like that's when you became an adult.
I swear it's true. Yeah. 2016.
Isn't that interesting that
9
like
years.
when our parents are still alive, we can still not feel like an adult for some reason? Or, I don't know, be fully embodied.
I had this sense before she died, and at certain moments when we were having discord, I would think about it like, it's going to be better when she dies. And like, I would just hate myself for thinking that. And I'm sure my kid has thought the same. And because of the practice, and mostly because of the reading that I've done on the tradition of Mahayana Buddhism and Soto Zen in particular, the emphasis that we place in Dogen's Zen on impermanence and this fleeting existence that we're sharing here by some miracle, I'm okay with it. Like I understand that my kid would probably have that thought. And it's true. I will be with him when I die. I will be with you. Jonah, if you ever watch this, when I die, I will be with him every step. And we will get along great.
What do you mean by that? You're going to be with him every step? Energetically or?
The way that my mom is around.
Okay.
I'll be around.
Once you pass.
Totally.
You're going to be here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just an energy of support. the way that I feel my mom is for me. It's
Hmm.
so beautiful.
Now, do you feel like that's within you or within the field around you or both in terms of your mom's presence?
Tutti due, both.
Both.
Yeah, for sure. It's somewhere inside of me. It's like a chip has been installed. I don't say that literally, but it's like I've got her. And these signs are unmistakable. It's really hard to ignore. Her number is 117, and I see 117 everywhere. The morpho butterflies, everywhere. Even just regular butterflies.
Synchronicities.
Yeah, just like, oh, yeah. Hey, we're still here. We're still together. You are still supported and loved. And then James, too, has a very clear relation with her. The two of them really got on beautifully. And so he's always kind of communing with her in some way, and he'll come to me with a message. He'll be like, your mom is really loving you today. It's like, God, did I ever need to hear that just then? It's very interesting to have someone who's so sensitive to the other side at my side.
Yeah, he is very intuitive. I want to ask you now about the transition of your studies. I mean, you were and still are a yogi
Yep.
and deep into yoga. And then at a certain point in time, you had this transition into Zen. And so, what can you share about that? Like, what led you there? How did that open?
So I've had a lot of different teachers. These pivot points have happened a lot in my adult life where I've started with one teacher and then moved to another teacher and then to yet another. And by 2020, when COVID happened and our family moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, northern New Mexico. None of us had ever been there. And on the second day, we were driving to meet my friend Chloe for a walk. And we drove past Upaya Zen Center, where I was suddenly jarred to remember that 20 years prior, I had met Roshi Joan Halifax, the abbot of Upaya, in New York at some talk somewhere or something. I don't recall exactly where I was. For some reason, I think it was in Organic Avenue at this little health food store back in the day. And when I saw that sign, a big, when you get those like big movements of energy in your body and a big fat tear just comes right out of your eye socket onto your cheek. It was like that. And tears started to fall. Just in the car, driving to a hike. I passed by the sign, Upaya Zen Center, closed for COVID. And it's like, oh my God, I'm crying. As soon as I got back from the hike, I went online to see what was going on at Upaya. They were in fact closed, but they had pivoted relatively quickly. Kodo, who is the director of Upaya, he had somehow figured out how to get everything online, like lickety split.
Wow.
It was amazing. And that was obviously the very beginning of the pandemic and the beginning of many people figuring that out. Zoom, YouTube, all the meditations were, visible and attendable virtually. And I began taking any program I could. And I don't recall, I can actually look online to see, but it was either Genjo Koan, which was a big sort of a treatise written by Dogen Zenji. It was either a program on Genjo Koan or it was a program on the Heart Sutra. One of those two. They happened pretty close in succession at the very beginning of my studies there, and I was cooked. I knew that I had found what I was looking for. What's very interesting about this is that I recently had a realization that Zen, as absolutely wonderful as it is for me and as well matched, I feel, to that practice, to that lineage, in Suzuki Roshi's lineage, to that place, Upaya, which is, as I said, Maizumi Roshi's lineage. As wonderful as all that feels, I see very clearly how Zen is one drop in the big ocean that is practice. I just love that practice. There are no words. There is nowhere to go. There is you and a cushion and a wall. And that's it. And for me, after a life of chasing and not being able to just have a cup of tea, but going after everything, and, to some extent, being able to accomplish quite a bit, I am so happy to have found this practice. So that's kind of where it is for me now. I go to at least one practice period or two a year.
Longer.
Yeah,
Longer.
those are month long.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's called an ongo, a practice sort of circle, as it were, where a bunch of us are together for the month in the schedule. And then that final week of sesshin with a couple of what are called zazen kais, which are just full day Saturday, sit 8 times. No talking, no eye contact, just you and your practice. I find this so strangely comforting.
That is so deep.
It's so nice. But I see now mostly it's because I've just been so active all these years and so chasing, grasping. That's why it's so comforting to me now, is because I see now how, empty that is, pointless, futile, all the words.
But for a time, there must have been some serious momentum to work with.
A lot. That's a great word. A lot of momentum. And I had so much fun. And just the fact that you and I are sitting here together speaks to that momentum. Like, we found each other because of that momentum. Deva and I, your wife, we found each other because of that momentum and all the things that I was somehow able to create, the relationships I was able to cultivate, the connections I was able to make. My goodness. But yeah, Zen being my practice now for the last 5-6 years. I'm now enrolled in the chaplaincy training, and I don't know that I'll become a formal, chaplain, as it were, like working in a hospital or say a university somewhere, but communal chaplaincy means a lot to me. And even just sitting with friends and listening, to go back to our first or second topic, it's like one of my favorite things to do, just to be practicing communal chaplaincy in my friendships means so much to me.
Can you share what those words mean, communal chaplaincy?
As a part of this program, I have to write what's called a capstone paper. It's similar to a thesis, but where a thesis is really just a piece of writing, capstone is where you're taking the writing and really putting it into practice. And
That's
so
beautiful.
It's so nice. And without getting too deep into it, unless we want to, my capstone has to do with communal chaplaincy. It's called the Monastery of Daily Life. And what does it mean to be practicing the skills of a chaplain, listening without an agenda, presencing people without trying to fix, heal, anything, just serving with your presence? Those practices become a part of everything that I do. So they have actually informed how I parent my kid now. And all the things I was saying earlier about, learning how to be present with him without being overbearing. It's really hard. I just want to help. And no, you can't help a 19-year-old. You've got to just be present. As you know, you have them of your own. You have to just be present, support their decisions. And, obviously I'm for the listener, I'm holding up my hands and kind of showing like a boundary on either side, like a little gate on either side. But there's not much that you can do aside from just serve them with your presence. that's communal chaplaincy too, as much as anything else. So that's kind of where I've taken my project, and I'm in 3 different volunteer placements. I'm in a hospice, small local nonprofit hospice. I go there at least 2-3 times a month now. It used to be once a week for 4 hours. Now it's a little bit less because I'm traveling more. I do 1 class a month in the penitentiary, level 2, men, yoga and meditation. And then every now and again, usually it's about once a quarter, I serve with an organization called Gerard's House. And they are working with families in acute grief or ongoing grief, loss of a parent, a sibling, a family member, to either death or something awful like deportation, which is very common in our neck of the woods there in northern New Mexico. And my capstone is basically traversing these 3 different placements with one of Dogen's main teachings, the 3 heart minds of Zen. I've sort of mapped them onto, you've been with me when I've taught those. I've sort of mapped them onto the 3 placements. And so the capstone has become like a very active way of serving for me. And
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's a very happy thing.
Tell me about presence and presencing. And for our listeners, like, tell us what that is and how that works.
I think the best way to describe it is to picture sitting with a teacher that you really admire. Here's the thunder. Teacher that you really admire in a small room with a candle burning, maybe some incense going. You've just been called out of your Zazen practice in the Zendo with a bunch of other people to come and have what's called either Daisan or Dokusan with the teacher. Dokusan is with the sort of abbot or higher, let's say, teacher. You sit down, you're pretty nervous. You don't know what you're going to talk about. You just have no idea. And you know the teacher is about to ask you, like, so tell me about your practice. And you have no idea what to say. And you could maybe talk about your breathing, or I don't know, maybe you want to talk about something you've discovered recently. And of course, I always go into that situation and I want to like show up really nicely and offer something profound. And I can't. The teacher in that moment is offering presence to me, is presencing me in my fumbling idiocy to try and come up with something interesting to say, and instead to just start bawling. That's usually what happens. I just start crying. I'm so moved by the practice. I'm moved by the years that the teacher, with whom I'm sitting has cultivated. I'm moved by their lack of emotion. I'm moved by their steadiness. That, for me, those are the words that point to presence.
Is it a holding space? Is it a releasing out judgment? Is it a witnessing?
Yes, all of those things. And I don't think in Zen that those are the terms. I think it's just as simple as sitting. Just sitting. And then I go in there and sort of like make it into some other thing, which it isn't. But if I just sat there, and sometimes I've managed to pull myself together and just sit, I do. And then they'll fold their hands together, the teacher, and give me a bow, and I'll bow back, and they'll say, so tell me about your practice. And I'll just say, I have nothing today. I have just my breath and some peace, and that's enough. Oh, so what are you working on with your breath? There could be any number of questions that arise. That's presencing. It's just a level of support and care. And what that has taught me in the situations where I volunteer in hospice and penitentiary and with the kids and the families, wow, I can't put to words. Because now finally, I'm comfortable just being still. Frank Ostaseski has also been a teacher to me of this. He's one who says, go into the room where somebody is dying, whether they're actively dying or they're going to die in a month. Sit in the corner. Don't do anything. Just sit. You don't need to fix anybody. You don't need to help. Just sit. That's presencing.
That's profound, because so often we go into this, I'm the doer mode and I need to control the situation.
Yeah. Welcome to my life up until now, basically. I've done some really stupid stuff in my life because of thinking I needed to be doing. And slowly, it's finding its way into my brain first and then finding its way into my behavior. Slowly. Painstakingly. But it's happening.
What's it like in the prison?
So this is level 2. It's pretty relaxed over there. There are times when we get there and they're on lockdown, so we can't do anything. We have to turn around and go home. But usually it's myself and one other teacher who's offering meditation practice. And I will lead, basically 30, 40 minute zazen, 30, 40 minute yoga asana practice. Really lovely. And I'm thankful for the 20-something years of teaching that I've had now, because I can really read a room and I know what they need. Some of them are having their socks on. Some of them are keeping their sneakers on. I don't even bother saying a word about it. Everybody's there to be themselves. And I will usually focus on strengthening the lower half of the body, legs, hips, glutes, feet, ankles, and opening the upper half. I'll focus on Roshi Jones, one of her sort of more, I want to use the word popular, but seminal teachings is strong back, soft front. And I'll bring that into the asana practice just because I've heard her say it so many thousands of times. I'll bring in the breath deep in the body. These are things that are very somatic, and they put the gentleman directly into their somatic experience so they can feel proprioceptively what it feels like to have a strong back, stand up for themselves, be fortified, but also a soft front, a level of compassion. When Roshi teaches these things together, it's equanimity. It's an equanimous comport that they could then ostensibly bring to their community there in the facility and be of some presence to someone else. So I often use languaging like that, mostly because it's like fresh and here, present in my consciousness, but also because I know it would serve them. And we get along really well. I like going there once a month and dropping in with these gentlemen and supporting them in any way that I can. And I've also been more on the financial side, supporting a women's organization called On the Inside for a number of years now. That organization serves women, incarcerated women, with day-long, sometimes several hours-long art projects, theater projects, writing practice. And I'm very eager to get one of those programs going in the women's facility in northern New Mexico. It's quite far away from me. It's about 3 hours away. So I'm working on the logistics of that at this moment, but that would mean a lot to me too, to finally actually be teaching rather than just financial support for that organization. But my general overarching answer to that is, I think that in our society, supporting the people who are currently healing under incarceration is of benefit to all of us. These are people who have just made a mistake. It was probably a lot more silly and careless than some of the mistakes that you or I have made, but it could be any one of us in there. And we just have no idea how little support they're getting in there.
Mm.
So for us to go in there, I'll speak for myself. For me to go in there and feel like I'm doing some small service for these gentlemen, to feel present in their bodies and to feel present in their minds, that feels really really good to me. That feels supportive to me as well. So I keep going and I keep doing it. And if I ever move out of this, area, I'll do it wherever I go because it
Yeah.
means a lot to me.
What has been some of the deeper teachings that you've received from your hospice work?
One of them just came up with regard to Frank Ostaseski and how he has taught me so much about just presencing people and sitting in the room and not needing to do anything or fix anything. That means a lot to me in this season. And I do find that people are more able to, families and patients are more able to make the connection and feel the support that I'm offering when I'm not like kind of running around cleaning and fixing and reorganizing the tissues or whatever I used to do, keeping my
Yeah.
hands busy because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. Sometimes I walk in and there's certain situations that are deeply moving or deeply sad or deeply uncomfortable. And I'll find myself doing. I'll just clean off this table over here and I'll just wipe it down and I'll be right back. I'll bring some lunch and like a little hummingbird
Yeah.
back and forth and in and out. And that doesn't usually, it doesn't help anybody. It's better if I just sit still, take some observations, notice what's needed, and mostly notice what isn't needed, and serve that truth. Stop moving around. Stop trying to clean it up and running to the kitchen unless I'm asked. Very recently, I was asked by the head of the hospice too. Man was in active dying, and she said, "Would you do me the biggest favor? I have to leave. Make it beautiful in here. He's going to pass soon, and I'd really like it to be a little cleaner than it is right now." And, for me, that's like my happy love language. Let me clean for you. And so, of course, I'll do it. But I've learned through trial and error that that's not always the best.
So there's this theme of stillness that's weaving through our discussion.
Yes, sir.
Quiet, stillness, spaciousness, presence,
Yeah.
a lot less doing.
Yeah.
And you just, you out-breathed just now.
There's nowhere to go, really. Thank God. Thank Buddha. I can't really improve upon an exhalation when it comes to this matter of stillness and emptiness and quiet. It's how I start and end the day, as we said earlier.
You are about to release a new book. How did the book come into being?
So this will be my fifth book. The first three were with Sounds True, a wonderful publisher. The fourth was a collection of poetry with Andrews McMeel, wonderful experience. And this one, I decided to reach out to an old friend of mine. Her name is Sarah, and she is the daughter of the founder of Shambhala Publications. We had always sort of danced around the possibility of doing a project together, but when I reached out to her, her enthusiasm was so infectious and supportive that we decided we're going forward directly. And I began, and I handed in this book that I thought was the book. And my editor, Sweet Beth at Shambhala, came back and was like, "This is wonderful, but it's actually not the book that we're looking for from you. What we're looking for from you is something personal so that your reader can have an experience of how you got from over there to over here. Zen teachings and all that will come later, maybe. Who knows? But for now, it's about you. And I was like, oh God. Oh God. I had several weeks of just kind of, I was here for some of it. I was at home for some of it. And I just was so struck by how little I wanted to talk about my own experiences. At the same time, I was working on starting a Substack, and I started to see a pattern in the Substack where if I was telling, no matter how brief, a story of my own experience, my own take on it, those were the posts that got much more traction than the ones where I was trying to sort of quote unquote teach.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 like the peanuts. The teacher of the peanuts. And I started to take that to heart. And I walked around with this tiny little spiral journalist's notebook, the ones that kind of flip open and are vertical. They flip open at the top is the spiral.
Yeah.
And I started just writing notes to myself about certain moments of my life that I felt were sort of seminal and interesting and meaningful to me. Weird things, little things like, closing my eyes and seeing myself under my bed when I was little. Finding a lot of comfort there because there was some turmoil in my home. One of my relatives was very sick. My parents were bickering all the time. It just felt very kind of tenuous there. So I just started writing down these little moments, vignettes, memories. That became the book. When I finally found it in myself to write, I just took that little spiral notebook and started elaborating on each one of those moments. Slowly, a kind of an organizing principle began to emerge, and the book came into being. I started handing in chapters, started getting a yes instead of a no, and the thing happened. That whole process from start to finish, handing in the first thing that wasn't the thing to now, it's almost 3.5 years. So it's a long time coming. You were present when the book was titled. We had such a wonderful day together, the four of us, your wife, Deva, and my man, James. And at the end of this really special day of, kind of adventuring and enjoying nature and being together, Deva came up with the title. We were doing, she's a seer. If you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you probably already know, and you've seen Deva's episodes, and she's just one of my favorite friends and really very, very dear to me in my life, a very important presence and factor in my own belief in myself. That's a really good way to say it. So Deva, thank you. She was doing some work with me, and she said, you know what, Elena? Very matter-of-factly, I just want you to hold nothing. I think that's your practice. Hold nothing. Just let go of all of it. I'm sort of listener. I'm looking kind of side to side right now. I'm kind of going, wait, what? The way a dog cocks its head to the side when a distant sound is heard. And everything fell into place again. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, goodness, yes, that's exactly right. Instantly, I knew that my Substack was going to be called that. First, it was Holding Nothing, and then it became Hold Nothing.
Yeah.
And that the book would be titled that, Hold Nothing. And I almost, you'll laugh, Eden, but there's almost a part of me that wishes I would have gotten this information like in 10 years from now, because that should be the title of the last book I write, not this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so profound, but something else will emerge, I'm sure. Hold Nothing to me at this juncture is the have a cup of tea. It's the
I was feeling that.
totally. It's just like, yeah,
That popped into my mind.
stop worrying. Relax. Let go. Put it all down. I've had so many teachers in Daisons and practice interviews that have said, hey, you can stop now. You don't have to make anything now.
Mm.
And of course, there's this impetus in me to like keep going and keep, but really my practice in this moment is to do anything I can to just let go and hold nothing at all. It seems to be bearing fruit. I hate to say it, but the book has some good momentum, and I think it's speaking truth to a lot of us who have felt for many years that we have had to be doing in order to succeed.
It's huge.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing.
I know. All because of your beautiful wife. Hold nothing.
Mm.
Amazing. What a gift she gave me, It's
Yeah.
it's one of those deep lifetime gifts that we get every now and again from someone who really cares about us. It's a teaching that isn't necessarily easy to incorporate, but a gift nonetheless.
And a beautiful title for a book that
Totally.
certainly has Zen as a big part of it, right?
It is, yeah. It factors in. There are all these sort of distant moments from my past that get metabolized in the writing with my current burgeoning understandings. And at the end of each chapter, you'll appreciate this actually, and so will Deva. At the end of each chapter, we have like 3 to 5 pretty well wrought prompts for the reader and also for teachers. If you're just reading the book, awesome. You're going to find this both totally confronting and totally satisfying to explore these prompts. But as a teacher, if you're, let's say, teaching retreats or even a college class, even kids, there are prompts in there for teaching that will provide a lot of fodder for exploration and, let's say, inner adventure.
What's it like to write a book for you?
It feels like what I was born to do. It's so strange. And, it's hard to explain. It's not something that's ever going to be the main focus. I really love teaching yoga, especially in this sort of iteration and time in our lives where my teaching is virtual. So I'm practicing while speaking the class. And I'm really I have a regular yoga practice. I wonder if it would be that way if I wasn't teaching. But it is, and it is that way. I love teaching yoga. I love the other businesses I have. I love making art.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Painting for me is like...
We haven't talked about art. We haven't talked about tea.
I know.
Well,
I
a little
love
bit.
serving tea.
A little bit
gosh.
about tea.
But these are the things that really light me up. And writing is kind of, I use the word, the way that I can metabolize my life. It's very efficient. And I have so many writers in my field. I just became much closer with Natalie Goldberg, who lives in my town. And we spent a fair amount of time together during the January practice period this year. Just being with her. And I wrote a bunch of haiku during some of the days when I was with her. And she would kind of offer me feedback. Actually, that's not a haiku. Elena, what if you took this word out and put this thought in? Just incredible, priceless insights from someone who's had decades of experience writing. So for me, writing a book has been a metabolic exploration of my life. In the previous books, as I mentioned, those first 3 with Sounds True, the first one was a yoga asana sort of editorial, really beautiful book that was designed by Erica Jago. Together, we just had such a very seamless process called Art of Attention. And then there were 2 after that were both journals, Practice You and Being You. And Practice You is bestseller. It keeps going. It sold well over 130,000 copies. People just keep on using this book for their own metabolic processing, being you. And then the poetry book was a very different process where I pulled from probably a lifetime of writing poems since I was probably 10. And all of those were in a pile, and they've traveled with me from place to place to place. And finally, just before the pandemic, I started putting those together into a functioning sort of box of treasures. And then I put it together during the pandemic. Obviously, it came out in 2023, and that was a really sweet way to look at myself from through another lens, through a side door. Like, these are the things that matter to me. This is what was important. And that kind of led to this project.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What about a couple of events that are happening soon at a place called True Nature in Carbondale, Colorado?
It's only my favorite yoga studio of ever. True Nature, obviously. If you're listening to this and you're one of my humans that haven't met Eden before, or maybe you don't know about True Nature, it is this very magical heart project of Eden and Devas in Carbondale, Colorado, one of the prettiest, most charming, most magnetic towns I've ever been to. In fact, so magnetic that I'm doing 2 events there between the end of September and the beginning of October. So the first one is called Threshold, co-teaching with Laura McCowan, who is the author of Push Off From Here, We Are the Luckiest, and is the founder of the Luckiest Club. She's a very serious spearhead for making sobriety cool.
Wow.
She and I got sober at the same time about 11 years ago now, 2014-ish, and has become one of my best friends.
Wow.
She and I, along with Kemi Nekvapil, who's a powerhouse writer from Australia and also a flower farmer and also one of our favorite humans, the 3 of us teach a retreat called Threshold. We taught the first one last year in 2024 in Boston, and this year we've moved it over to True Nature because as much time as I could spend there as possible. We have a small group, which is very delicious, for 3 days, a short, sort of a longer weekend, let's say, but a short retreat. And there is a combination of movement, writing, exploration, contemplation, silence, talking, really healing work is done in that container. That's September 25th through 29th. And then we have a few days off. And I don't know if you know this yet, but right around then, we're going back to our favorite little spot outside of Telluride. And we're going to have a few days to ourselves, just the 4 of us, to eat and relax and read and write and chill and soak. And then we go back to Carbondale, October the 3rd till the 5th. So Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, Deva and I are going to be toggling back and forth. That weekend is called Reconnect. And it's not quite a retreat, but if you were to take all of the classes, dear listener, you would be on a retreat. You would have Friday night sound with Deva and Eden. You'd have Saturday morning with Deva, I believe, Saturday afternoon with me, Sunday morning with me, and Sunday afternoon with Deva. And that is a pretty killer weekend of yoga. Deva and I are in some ways so similar with regard to the, let's say, precision and care that we bring to the practice. Oh, it just means so much to both of us and in different ways. She is the person, if you're coming through me listening to this, who introduced me properly to Ayurveda, to Divya, altar, to how I should eat warm food and drink warm or hot water. It has changed. I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel and look different since really heeding Deva's instruction. And the way she teaches yoga is not dissimilar insofar as she cares deeply about the tradition, the ancient process of the practice, and her teaching is really stellar. I really enjoy taking her classes, and you will find me in those classes with my notebook next to my mat and a pen. And don't practice near me if that's going to be distracting for you, because I will be dropping down out of poses and taking notes because I learned so much with her. And then I'll bring, of course, to that weekend my love of Zen, a lot of stillness, a lot of quiet, some rigorous asana to be sure, and some yin in the afternoons. But yeah, it's such a pleasure to teach together. She and I, we have such a
Awesome.
nice time.
And we'll have a lot of fun.
Indeed. And that's October 3rd to 5th.
So how can people get in touch with you and learn more about your offerings?
Easily, I have a website, ElenaBrower.com, ElenaBrower.com. And there you can find my calendar, my Substack. That's a great way to be in touch on a weekly basis. I write pretty much 2 to 3 times a month on Substack. It's just such a sweet personal way to be in touch. And my website has everything else that you would want or need to find. You can find my glow practices there, the yoga online, and the birds are telling us they're
the green
parakeets.
parakeets.
They're so sweet.
I love them so much.
So much. They're going to school right now, it looks like. And they're telling us that it's time to close it down.
I want to close with just you sharing a small piece of what tea ceremony means to you.
Oh gosh.
Can we just end with the beauty
Definitely.
of tea ceremony?
Many, many years ago, I want to always give credit where credit is due. I think it was my 41st birthday when my dear friends Michael and Mijanu, they were still married at the time. They're now no longer. Mijanu is Mystic Mama on Instagram. Really incredible seer, celestial being, and love bug, dear friend. We raised our kids early on together, infancy into toddlerhood. They brought me to a tea ceremony for my birthday with a woman by the name of Balin Elspeth, BaelynElspeth, Balin Elspeth. Online on Instagram, she's All Matters of Spirit, one word. I sat down in her room. She was at the time in Venice, California, with my friends. We sat at her tea table. I'd never been to a ceremony before. Minute 1, her silence and her stillness, which I now know was steeped in the study of Zen and tea, slayed me. I know we're not supposed to use that word, but that's the only word that comes to mind. I was just dead. I couldn't believe how meaningful it was, how many tears I shed that day. I proceeded to follow her. I saw her for tea all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, LA, New York. It was just any time that I possibly could. Oh, hi. And finally, I went in Santa Fe and took an immersion with her where I learned how to serve tea. That was a couple of years ago. And now I serve myself tea pretty much every morning while I'm working or before I work. James loves the tea. James is becoming quite the connoisseur of the pu'er and the lubao. I'm now working with Colin Houdon, who founded Living Tea, another beautiful offering out of Telluride, Colorado. And tea, to me, to answer your question finally, I think is the embodiment of my Zen practice. Even though it's originated in China, obviously, the way of tea has me understanding that my hands can be transmission of stillness. My attention, similar to like a really good Montessori teacher, when they don't look at the children, they just look at the project that they're working on, the work that they're doing. And then the kids, because they're seeing the teachers so engrossed in the work, that's what they want to do. The tea is like that for me. And what Balin has taught me, among so many other things, is just follow the tea. And that translates into literally everything else in my life. Follow the energy. Follow the energy of this project. Follow James's energy. Follow my son's energy. Don't lose track of what is important. Follow the tea. Don't oversteep it. Don't have water that's too hot. Don't pour it too quickly. It's just a level of attentiveness that I have learned from the tea and from these two teachers, Balin and Colin, that will follow me until I am gone from this world. I'm so thankful for the practice of it because it gives me a morning ritual in addition to a couple of others that has deep meaning for me. Thank you for asking that question.
Elena, thank you so much for sharing this time of connection and time of presence. I'm really grateful that we're friends and that we got this opportunity.
I'm very proud of you for taking on this podcast. It's so true to you. I feel so comfortable with you. You ask great questions. You listen so beautifully. And I'm so eager to see how this unfolds in the world. This project of yours, Connection is the Medicine, indeed.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Connection is the Medicine. This podcast is sponsored by the Connection is the Medicine Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to co-creating connection to self, community, nature, and spirit. I hope this conversation inspires you to connect with deeper meaning and purpose in your life. To learn more about our offerings at True Nature in Carbondale, Colorado, and Loma Sagrada in Nosara, Costa Rica, please visit connectionisthemedicine.com. Blessings on your day, and I look forward to visiting with you again soon.